So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna have to do.
So with her dad and be punished.
Yeah, no, it's
state that has a lot of older infrastructure. So a lot of the theaters, they've reclaimed, something that once was a much larger theater and chopped it down into, 15 tiny theaters, right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it all tends to be older. It all tends to be older anyway. So the upgrades to things like reserved seating and cooler seats has been slow.
Now, now in Technicolor and stereo.
Ding, ding, ding. Hey, not to regress, but to add a comment to something. I'm sorry, I was trying to get the technology working for us today on the rebrands. So the one question or statement I'd like to make that turns into a question is, it's not so much a brand as it is resources to understand the resources available. I don't know. I think we're in harmony when I say that a lot of times when we approach clients or work with people or ownerships, is that they are either unaware of the resources that are available with their relationships with a brand, soft brand, full brand, whatever it may be, or they don't have resources dedicated to utilizing those resources available, and or on reverse, independent hotels who have chosen that path in comparison to brands either don't apply enough resources to utilize the diversity that they are available to, and platforms and services and so forth, or they're not knowledgeable enough to know what they don't know to optimize their unique capabilities of choosing whatever is usable by them. I know that's a lot of statements, but does that sound kind of like maybe something?
So long story short, what you're saying is the large problem that exists on both sides of the equation is not taking advantage of what's available to you to maximize your business.
Either applying enough resources or knowing what resources are available. Yes, on both sides of the conversation.
On the second half of that statement, I mean, the thing I would say, and I'm going to get in so much trouble with people who I live with after this, but having worked for, having worked with a large, having worked with a very large brand ownership group, a very large franchising group for a long time.
And are always incredibly difficult to work with, wind up maybe not getting the same level of engagement, right? And that's and unfortunately that happens with the OTAs too, right? All the hotels who are out there going book direct and we aren't going to do this, the OTAs respond with, they had that intentional dimming of changing colors and stuff that was really stupid, but the tiebreaker starts going to the cooperative, helpful people who are maybe compensating you, who are a better partner, right? You want to work more with your better partner. Yeah. And that's certainly the case for
if you're going to work,
let me tell you, wholesalers and yeah, exactly.
If you're going to work with anyone, be a good partner.
Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Be a crappy partner,
it's foolish to do otherwise.
Well, I think one of the more successful conversations I have with clients is not waiting for them to ask the question that will release the Kraken for us. Oh, is that what you want? Well, let's go do that. Or what is it you need us to do? And we'll go off. Do the genie model. To give us your wish, and we'll go complete it. It's being proactive, as you said, where it's like, look, did you realize that there's a new nuance to this, or there's a variation of this, or there's a new technique that we can do that can maybe augment some of this stuff that I know is a target that we're working on for you, or something. Where if you can come to, because again, it's a matter of time, bandwidth, and prioritization. And a lot of them are operationally minded. They're property centric, or they're corporate centric. They're not keeping up with the latest and greatest, which means they're not listening to our show, which is a shame. If they listen to our show, they'd be completely capable of doing everything they need to do. But all the new stuff, all the variations, the brand awarenesses, the independent service profiles, whatever it is, they need somebody. That's why they hire outside sources, is to bring that to the table. And they don't dedicate enough internal resources. I think is the key element to my statement, is they don't dedicate enough key element internal sources themselves or resources that they hire to keep them persistently aware of and advantageously using all the things that may be available to their current situation.
Tim Peter has left the room.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what it was? Tammy came in and said, pull the plug.
Yeah.
You talked about brands.
We talk no brands.
Exactly.
Don't talk about no brands like that. We got two
now
Tims.
we have two Tims.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they've merged back.
They have merged back to one Tim. There he is. Did Tammy pull the plug on you? Did she come in and go?
No. I was having a network problem, so I.
Oh! I'll feel better. Feel better.
Yeah. Tammy pulled the plug on the router.
Yeah.
We have an internet kill switch in our house.
Yeah, that's right.
It's it's an electromagnetic pulse. Actually, it's quite...
That's exactly what it is. It's the halo light.
It's an EMP. Boom, boom. Yeah. Yep. She has a camera on you for it.
Tammy snaps her fingers and things happen.
And half my bandwidth goes away.
Did you guys maybe just pick up on the Navis Star webinar yesterday? Did you guys anybody jump on that one?
No. I haven't seen this one.
They're trying to do
of the 2 dozens, webinars yesterday. No,
dozens.
What was the takeaway?
Webinars? Yeah, no, it was. They were just talking about statistics. I mean, they're talking about for the forecast for the year and so forth. I just thought it was ironic. It patches to one of the other topics you had put in there, Robert, about this year and RevPAR and what sustainable growth are we actually going to have, and where is this falling off, and what segmentation is really driving it, and so forth. I just found that was some interesting.
Yeah. So to the focus wire, it's time to call it. We're heading for a travel recession. By the way,
part one.
If you continually say that every year,
eventually
you'll be right.
That's exactly right. You'll never go wrong being bearish. Eventually,
it's right twice a day.
Right twice a day.
Exactly.
Yes, and I really, you work with FocusWire, right, Robert?
Well, it's part of Focusrite, yeah. So I do.
Yeah. So could you get a Hotels.com Captain Obvious ad on that article, please?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, there would be nothing more perfect because few people would catch it. But
yeah.
You mean continual years of growth are eventually going to run up against a year of slowdown?
Right.
I called it fourth quarter of 2016 or something like that.
And eventually you'll be right.
The industry had plateaued, right? And the question is, how long does the plateau last?
But here's the big challenge. The big challenge that's actually messing with all these models right now is our economy has fundamentally changed. Globalization has taken a slightly stronger hold than previous models. The economic drivers of growth in the stock markets are completely different companies than historically have held those positions. And we're not very boomy right now. There's certain aspects, so like the car industry has been a bit boomy for a bit. But that's not enough to do a full blown vertical, multi-vertical recession. It's yes, there's going to be cooling, and eventually your growth is going to stifle. Look, family members. Harper, look, there is a cat. That's Kelso.
No, that's Seth.
Oh, Seth. Oh, that's right. Sorry, Kelso. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Well, you're right, Ed. And just to follow up on that point, I think this is what you're saying is, everything that I've seen, everything that you've seen, I'm sure, everything that we're seeing generally is whatever the next recession is going to be a quote unquote normal recession. Now it's tough, typically the hospitality industry, I don't want to say it's recession proof. It's not by any stretch, but every market is its own little economy. So, New York could be in a recession right now and Vegas could be booming. And then Vegas could be in a recession next month and, Orlando could be booming, right? I mean, that's just the nature of the way it goes. And I think that's what we're likely to see this time. So I guarantee there are markets right now who are in recession. And there are markets right now who aren't going to see it for another, 10, 12, 18, 24 months, right? Because that's the kind of recession that I suspect we're going to see.
Although I am going to predict that Florida is going to see some really difficult headwinds in their travel industry growth if they continue down the path that this week has started, which is Visit Florida is likely to no longer exist after October 1st.
Really?
Oh, really? They're going to go through
April 10th.
If
you look April 10th, the Senate had approved a bill to extend Visit Florida through 2027. Less than 2 weeks later, the House had basically raised support to not only stop that, but to actually just stop all funding of Visit Florida altogether. And now it's looking like the Senate is going to back the House proposal.
Oh my
so
gosh.
A state that saw 160 million visitors last year is going to stop investing in marketing the state. Which, listen, where I live,
rest on your laurels.
We're not going to feel it.
Really helps.
I live in Orlando. Orlando's going to be fine. It's where Lauren lives that's going to be screwed. It's St. Augustine that's going to be screwed. And ironically, all these politicians that raise the biggest stink about defunding Visit Florida are from areas that will be the most affected because it's the tertiary tourism destinations inside of Florida that will feel this the most. Miami's going to be fine. Orlando will be fine. Sarasota will be fine. It's going to be Cocoa Beach that suffers.
Exactly.
It's going to be Fort Myers, Sanibel, that the next time Red Tide comes in and they don't get a massive marketing budget given to them by the state to deal with that. Those are the areas, and that's going to affect way further reaching than travel.
Oh yeah.
So yes, so I'm going to call it now. I believe we're 12 to 18 months from Florida having a tourist sector recession.
Well, look at the upside. At least it's not a quarter of the economy.
Right.
Yeah, but they won't know because nobody's keeping the stats, right?
Orlando's going to be fine. Yeah, Orlando will be fine. Disney, are you kidding me? They've got Star Wars opening. Universal's going to break ground on another park. They've added to Harry Potter. There's like 16 million rooms of inventory coming online. Over the next.
Which in and of itself is actually, I mean, you guys all know this. That is a sign that things might actually be bad, right?
Right.
The inventory is a trailing indicator.
Yeah.
So there's 16 million rooms coming in, but how many of those rooms actually are viable, right?
Well, what's actually
if it's 14,
it's
that's
actually
problem, right?
It's where the rooms are being put that actually are going to be really impactful for Orlando because they're mostly on iDrive, meaning they are rooms that can house the convention center visitors. And it's not 16 million, but it is thousands of rooms being built, and a lot of them are around the International Drive area. So anyways, sorry to take that. Most people haven't caught the news yet that Visit Florida is like on edge to not having their funding cut, actually being eliminated as of October 1st.
That would seem to be unwise. I'm going out on a limb here. I'm making a bold prediction.
Maybe I should send. There's a great children's book that I read to my kids, and it's Is That Wise Pig? I may send that to all the politicians that are taking this up.
Yeah, my point. My point is on the data, right? So they kill Visit Florida. That data stops getting collected pretty much, or at least being evaluated consistently.
Unless there's a really cool tech company that is pretty widely deployed in the state of Florida that's keeping tabs on demand.
Look at his smirk.
And also, this is one place where I'm going to definitely disagree with you, Robert. I mean, I would be much more worried about losing, 10% of what is a quarter of the state's economy than I would about the data that you don't collect when you lose 10%.
No, absolutely. No. I think that's the problem. The problem is then they don't have the data to really come back, right? And then you've wounded yourself on
it's a matter of knee-jerk reaction that somebody wants to go over and make a point to somebody else. Somebody
for better deals and then cancel later. I mean,
a new generation of travelers come into the marketplace. It was all discount based. Right, exactly. It was, 20% off, 30% off, 20% off. I'm like, I think I've spotted why it's such a low ADR for you.
Yeah.
Right? We fall back on discounting again and again and again and again and again and again.
Because it's the easy button to push. You do not have to at all.
But it's not an easy button. Here's the thing. Discounting is the dumbest thing you can do.
It absolutely. It's lazy.
Forget lazy. It's dumb.
Lazy.
It's
stupid.
It is dumb. It is dumb. It is dumb, and it will kill your business in the long run. Because here's what actually happens, and this has been proved again and again and again. There's studies in in academia as well as real world experience with this. Of you lower your rate because you think somehow this is going to help you drive occupancy or steal share from your competitors, right? You immediately. Your competitors all respond by doing the same thing, right? So maybe 10 years ago, you got a little short-term blip, but today that doesn't occur. All you do is lower the ceiling for everybody, right? Then, in a couple of months, when you realize that this isn't paying off, you either have to cut service or you have to cut marketing to try to, deal with the fact that you're not making as much revenue. Which, guess what, just leads to further soft results, which go, oh gosh, now we have to discount. And you're setting this whole new
spiral.
It's a death spiral. It's I don't care if it's lazy or not. It's stupid.
Well,
it is actually initiating a death spiral.
You do that in lieu of explaining value.
Right.
Because explaining value is hard because you actually have to start with, who am I talking to? What's valuable to this audience?
Maybe understanding your value. Yeah.
My gosh. Yeah. Why are we a good place to go?
Right.
And all of these questions don't go to the easy. Just do this. It's all hard thinking because it's strategy. And
here's where I'm going to defend our clients and our partners in the industry and a little bit on this on one level, in that it does take work and it is hard and it is sometimes tough to prove the return on, right? So there's a reason why people go there. What I'm saying apart from that is the other thing you're doing is categorically proven to be a really bad idea in the longer term, and sometimes not that long a term. Even if you disagree with everything we're saying in terms of sell value, tell a great story about your property, fill the top of the funnel, all those other kinds of things, fine. That's completely fine. Find a better way to bring in the business than just literally starting a death spiral for your company, because that is guaranteed to fail in the long term for sure.
Well, and if you're doing it now,
death spiral.
Right.
Well, wait, but the worst part, we were just talking about the industry being at this peak and this plateau and things are going really well. Just wait till the downturn occurs. And that's when all hell breaks loose.
Yeah,
right?
That's exactly right.
And then things get very, very ugly.
This is a really old technique. And I bring this up only because I was talking to Ed before about my old mentor that I'm working with on some other stuff. And he reminded me of some things we used to do. I'm going to put a wrinkle of dimension to your conversation. I agree with everything you're saying completely, and the death spiral, and pulling down the rate is only allowing the water to pool to you. But if you can't stop the water from pooling to somebody else that lowers their rate, you're really just fighting until you get below your cost threshold. So now, with this wrinkle, we assign value to our product in a way that no longer is scientific. I would say this as a statement because in old school, we used to work out the actual math of what rates were based on what the income level necessary was to afford that rate, or the business that it represented to the company that was paying for that rate for what it was being used for. And I mean this from a math sense. So if a company X is going to send a client, one of their salespeople out, and they're going to have to do a project, that project has to have a certain potential value of return numerically. There's a certain cost percentage of that numerically. There's a cost about staying with us while that's part of that process of cost. You know, the food, the accommodations, the travel accommodation, all of that is a cost factor associated with that you mathematically calculate out and says, okay, if the flights cost on average X and food cost average X, or per diem that's provided is X, and hotel cost is X, what is the project size for a person that's being sent by their company? That value proposition is what rate you can actually charge them before they don't include you as a decision process. Right. There used to be, we used to do this on paper, you know, and saying from a corporate segmentation point of view, if we're taking for the corp traveler, we can't go above this level of cost per room for this level of monies that they might be paying for. It doesn't apply to everybody. We weren't that smart back then to know there was a million different variations to this. We had to categorize it by just segmentation, saying, okay, our corp traveler probably can't pay more than $100 because that means that whatever they're sending this guy for is going to go down to the Motel 8 because, you know, they got to keep their costs down. But you do this and just at least put some general fences around it to assign a rate value to your hotel. And if you do that, it's less arbitrary, because I think what we've gotten into is that we do this assumption of what is everybody else in the market doing? Oh, I'm going to build a hotel. It's going to have this many rooms. In my market, I want to be this caliber. I want to be tier 3-star, which means I'm going to be able to get a 250 ADR. Where did you get the 250 ADR? You pulled it out of the air in comparison to your market set. Okay. And then when you start getting, I know I'm being very trite about it, but just the idea of it is, it's not as math to it. And so they go into this, and the ownership has this potentially artificial expectation of what their ADR is. They then inflate their revenue demands because bank demands require it and so forth. So they automatically start amping up.
Gotta pay the mortgage up.
Right. Yeah. You're putting BS on top of BS. By the time you get done with the $300 ADR, because you need it to go over and hit the rev numbers based on the occupancy numbers that you think you're going to get artificially out of a mind's eye, you then walk into the market space, and when you start running lower than that, what's the first thing you do? I have two levers: control my inventory or control my rate. And that's what they start yanking. And then as soon as you start dropping rate, and I've had this conversation with Ed about somebody else, when you start dropping rate, that one day it's $90 and the next day it's $300, what kind of room is it? Is it a $90 room, good rate, or is it a $300 room that you got a hell of a rate? You know, these are the issues that we hit with, and then people wonder why you have this this roller coaster ride of what is our comp set doing? Oh, lower the rate. We can't let them have it. You know, that kind of thing.
You're a $300 a night hotel, and you're churning it down to $90. All of a sudden, that persona who was, providing value and seeing value at the hotel, $300 a night, the $90 ones, you got a whole bunch of other folks who are different persona who may not be doing it, and it may change the dynamic of the hotel.
That persona also may end
up complains.
They're going to complain because they are offended by how expensive the food is in your restaurant.
Absolutely.
And they're offended by how expensive your spa is, and they're offended by all of this stuff because they don't see the same value metric in those cost points as someone who thought $300 was a good deal.
Right.
And so, to not, actually we're making the argument right now on why hotels do this, because this has turned into a very technical, convoluted conversation. Let's simplify it a bit. Okay. There are things you can do to not have rate be the first lever you pull. Mm-hmm. Try and exhaust as much of that as you can. Then if all you can find that rate is the only thing you can do to get over whatever hump this is, try and not do that on consumer facing sites. It would be better for you to take a hit on a group, because at least it's only that group that you're taking the hit on. And it filled the need that you had.
Or do it solely on distressed inventory, and what I mean by this is, this is one I do all the time when you really have a legitimate problem. Now, the mistake that a lot of people make is they define everything as distressed inventory too often. But when you have pure distressed inventory, do a best customer sale, right? send the rate to your very best customers. And if you're not 100% sure of who your very best customers is, okay, send it to the folks who've stayed with you more than once in the last year. Okay, right? Yeah. So you might be sending it to a much larger audience.
Have them send to their friends. Make it that you can do this.
Absolutely. But at least what you've done is you've said, I'm telling you why I value you and you're getting a deal. And I still wouldn't do it with a rate. I would still try to do it with value adds and things along those lines instead of a rate, resort credit, whatever.
But in lieu of that,
try
and at least go to someone who you have a relationship with, and maybe even try to identify inside of that base, like who spends a lot of money on property when they're here.
Right. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually one of the interesting things. I know, bed banks and wholesalers got a really bad reputation. Right? It's a dirt cheap rate. In many cases, those are the guys who are generating, quality customers who want to do a lot of things. Let me tell you, for Vegas, the people who come through the OTAs, they'll get a cheap room. They don't go to shows. This is gross, generalization, but they don't go to shows as much. They don't dine in the restaurants. They don't do all that stuff, where all of a sudden you start getting these Southwest Airlines vacation customers and stuff like that. Unbelievable spend. They're at the tables losing their shirts, all the things the casinos really love. And I mean, when you start working through that, and it's
of, where do you want do you want them feeling like they stretched for the basics? So when they get there, top of mind is savings.
Right.
Or do you want to try to find that happy medium where they feel like they did well on the basic stay so they can live a little, and
they can leave a little extra behind.
Right. And it's funny. It's the only market I don't mind taking comps from customers on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hate calling customers and asking them to comp me for a room. I always ask for either a net rate, like give me the net rate you're giving Expedia if you can, because otherwise I'm going to go book it on Expedia and you're going to end up with the same rate anyways. But in Vegas, I'll take a comp because I know I will go spend money, and I do it. I make sure if someone comps me, I will gamble in their casino. I will eat dinner at the restaurants in their facility.
And I don't want to lose one key element point that I think you all made at the same time was, if you're going to mess with rate, put it in a bottle. Go to a group. I mean, Holly, should love this part of the conversation. She should freaking turn on the camera and talk to us, because as she pitches to salespeople, what better way to make your salespeople reevaluate the value proposition to the overall spectrum is to be able to walk to your salesperson and say, hey, do I have something for you? I'm going to give you a really incredible rate variable and inventory opportunity to go really pull some base business for us.
Right.
And you have it. We're not putting it out. It's not strategy. It is yours. And that, talk about, then you're walking around with a really cool thing in your pocket when you start hitting now your salespeople are energized, because now it's like, man, all those businesses are on the fence, the people they're fighting against with their comp set. I got something for you, buddy. Boom. Yeah. I mean, that's a huge deal. I mean, that's something that you hear a lot of people do. But
the ultimate closed group, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's exactly right.
Yeah, and here's other things you can do. And this is the other thing that I think with Holly being around, maybe or not, is we don't really push our salespeople to make sure that our groups engage their people about their responses and their feedback and so forth near as strong as they should. We do go through the debriefing with the group leader maybe, but we never really ask in the engagement process with groups, can you ask your group to help us always improve our service qualities as always and so forth, but can you share your experiences? Can you share that you're coming? Do we actually solicit that? Do we ask the question, do we try to go for the sale, so to speak, in the sense of, hey, now that you're coming with us, can you engage your people to engage with their people?
Flip to customers too.
Yeah.
It's a softball. It's a beach ball for you.
Flip to customers too. Well, actually, one of the most popular strategies on our platform for hotels that have any type of group that is planned by a single set of people is to actually create a motivation in the campaign for those people to chase their group to take part in the advocacy. So we do it with like weddings and like student athlete groups, because it's usually moms and dads who were the ones coordinating it for their team. Great, get that mom and dad to chase all the other moms and dads inside the group to do this, and you'll get something for it. And that is a very effective strategy on our platform.
For good reason.
Hey, you know what? You know what an ineffective strategy is? We're
discounting.
We're talking. No, it's even worse. It's even worse than that. I just looked. We were talking about way back, the Curio discussion, right? And I was going to make the point that maybe the Diplomat in Hollywood Beach, Florida, was a good one where it's a Curio, right? Used to be a Westin. They're probably saving some fees to become a Curio, things like that. So I decided I'm going to go look at Marriott hotels in Hollywood, Florida, right? So I, searched in Google and there's an ad at the top that says Marriott Hotels, Hollywood, Florida. So if I'm a dedicated, loyal Marriott person who might have typed that in, I might click on the ad. Guess what the link is to?
Curious.
www.marriott.com/default. So you click on the ad for Marriott Hotels in Hollywood, Florida, and you get a screen which basically says, "Where are you going?" sort of thing. I mean, it's unbelievable. You just go, "Oh dear Lord." Yeah, don't do that to me. Now,
the only thing I'm going to say to this is thank God there isn't a web show that focuses on any mistakes we make, because
well, when it happens, there can be one ad.
Look at the time.
Oh my gosh. I told you all the story of what I used to do way back when I used to be asked to speak at Focus, right before they made people pay and all this other stuff. This goes back quite a few years.
You don't have to pay to. Whoa! But no. The speakers at Focusrite are not pay to play.
Okay, I'm sorry, but there was a time.
That is not good. Now, if you're if you're in the Travel Innovation Summit and you're pitching a startup, yes, you're paying $15,000 for 8 minutes.
Okay,
so that's a little different, but not on center stage. And they do back when you were invited. Yeah,
they
invite speakers. Yeah,
they still do invite speakers. What they invite speakers from very large companies. They don't invite speakers from
sometimes small ones, but but
usually startups with a lot of.
Tammy Peter was on stage last year.
She certainly was.
And did a very fine job.
Back how far? But quite a lot. Back quite a ways. But anyway, so I was supposed to speak at the Dip at Focusrite that year, and I thought rather than try to hit the traffic, I might stay closer. And we had the Marriott Hollywood up the road. So I reached out to him and said, "Hey guys, you guys sold out because at the company I was working for at the time, you never displaced revenue. They sold out. Well, for what?" And I'm like, "Because the conference just down the road. I mean, you guys, must have picked some of that up." And they're like, "We don't know what you're talking about." It's like, "Y'all,
they said what conference?
Yeah, right. Yeah, what?"
They were like every other year.
Yeah. So I go over and I look, and what I did was I did a Facebook. I used this example in my talking stuff about doing targeting campaigns with custom audiences and stuff. Is I went over and targeted everybody that liked Focusrite and all the chief sponsors of Focusrite that year. And I did a Facebook ad that went over and said, "Hey, coming to Focusrite, stay 5 minutes up the road, 4-star hotel, $100 less," because their rack was still $100 less than the Dip. Yeah. So I went over and I put that out. They sold out for the whole time that the conference was going on. So we thought, that's cool. That's like lightning in a bottle. Every year they came back at the Dip. I used to do that, and it was like sell out. Just by targeting.
My only problem with that story, Lauren, was it should have been should have been $50 less.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Jen, I have to run.
Okay, to that point, you're right.
Have a great weekend. Lauren, you haven't seen Endgame, right?
I have not seen Endgame, so you can tell me all the spoilers you want. I don't care.
It will blow your mind when Drax snaps his finger.
Well, I already got that first part, but all right, that's fine. Hey, I need to bug your head about
Captain America marrying. Yeah,
I liked your story too.
Oh my!
So, hey, Ed, real quick,
Black Widow.
Black Widow. Oh, see, I wasn't going to do the spoiler. So, okay.
I'm talking in Phoenix to Blackstone, and I need any ideas you have about. They want me to tell them about innovation ideas that they should be worried about, and I got all the big dogs coming in from Blackstone. I didn't realize who was coming in.
That they should be worried about.
Well, that they should consider for all the large resorts are showing up. All the people from the large resorts globally are showing up, and their board is showing up, and the Hilton people are showing up, and I'm talking as keynote, and I'm like, really? Whoa. Okay, sure. But so any ideas you have, throw them to me because I got to build the deck this weekend.
When's the talk?
Wednesday.
There's so much. There's so much I could tell you, but I can't tell you.
You don't have to tell me now.
Tim and I would be happy to consult. Tim will do
content marketing strategy through email.
Oh yeah, okay. Actually, I was going to.
The only reason I say that is because of what they're allowed or not allowed to do in email. So it's a huge competitive threat for them.
Well, I was going to go after the pike syndrome, where the analogy of the not the analogy, but the show that a pike, they kept putting in minnows in the water and they kept eating the minnows. Then you put the minnows in the glass, and the pike kept attacking the minnows. Couldn't eat it. Eventually, he gave up, and you could put the minnows in the water and he wouldn't eat them. The idea is all your best ideas aren't they're floating around you the whole time. It's not the newest best thing. It's really what you have available now that you're not taking advantage of because you're ignoring it for wrong reasons.
God, are you going to tell them not to get shiny object syndrome?
Can you believe it?
That's odd.
Has there been a 7th lightning strike that we don't know about?
Exactly.
I thought about throwing out an initial slide that had AI, blockchain, big data. There we go. If you haven't heard
look at my slides up on SlideShare. That is actually one of my most recent presentations. Here's all the things that everybody's talking about. And here's the ones you actually should pay attention to because all the rest of them are crap.
Is the second one a blank slide?
I do make the point. I'll give you this one for free. I do make the point about metasearch and the why metasearch is overrated. Basically, if you think about it, the average hotel makes somewhere between 3 and 4% maybe of their traffic comes from metasearch, and maybe they have a 3 or 4% conversion rate on that, right? Mm-hmm. So 4% of 4% multiplied by 24 hours a day by 7 days a week is 16 minutes a week. If you're spending any more than 16 minutes a week focusing on metasearch, you have wasted time. Move on.
Very nice. All right, gents, have a great weekend.
Thank you so much. Flip to flip.to, Mr. Edward St. Nodge.
Bye.
Bye.
Do you consider Google metasearch, though?
I don't. Actually, Google is the next thing I talk about.
Okay.
I mean, I do, but I don't. I don't consider metasearch a thing, right? The problem with metasearch is not a product. Metasearch is not a company. Metasearch is a feature.
A feature, right.
Right. So Google has always been metasearch from a certain perspective, and all they're simply doing is improving the features that they're offering you as part of its metasearch offering, right?
Yep.
But otherwise, Google is sending 7% of metasearch traffic from Google. About 7% of it goes to I'm going to get this wrong. Expedia and Booking get 7% of their traffic from Meta on Google. The average hotel gets about 1%.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And by the way, Google's the biggest one out there compared to everybody else. So
have you noticed that Kayak is coming back?
No, it's not.
No.
Yes, it is.
It's not. It's not. Coming back from what? Wait, it got to 1%. It fell to 0.7%, and now it's back to 1%.
It's coming back.
Oh, for God's sakes! We'll throw a parade in their honor.
Okay, so wait, coming back.
I thought
doing
it was on the
what?
spiral of death, as you refer to it, and then I saw the numbers creeping back up. I'm like, seriously, Kayak is creeping back up? Where's that?
Well, wait, what kind of numbers is this? Booking productivity coming from Kayak, or traffic to their website, or
contribution percentage? Yeah. Out of the metasearch profile, it actually has increased its share of contribution comparatively to where it was before.
To a fraction of a fraction. Congratulations.
I know. That's why. It's like I thought Kayak would be on its last breath of, and instead.
Well, no. Actually, Google. Here's the thing: Google getting deeper into metasearch is actually the best thing that ever happened to Kayak, because the average consumer has never heard of metasearch, and the fact that Google is actually taking this feature and putting it into the standard search engine results page for folks is suddenly having people ask, "Oh, this is really neat. I wonder if I can do this other places." Mm-hmm. That's this is a feature, man. If metasearch was actually big, right? Let's be really clear about this. Expedia owns Trivago, right? And Booking owns Kayak.
Yeah.
Trivago's not even.
They own them enough.
They own 51%. Yeah, exactly.
They own them enough, right? If metasearch was actually big and was actually something that there was massive guest demand for, Booking and Expedia would simply turn those features on within their regular search engine today. And the reason that they don't is because there's limited demand among consumers for it. And if you look at things like Travelocity, not Travelocity, Orbitz has had demand media, meta details in their results for years, right?
Right.
Why don't they offer it all the time? Because nobody's looking for it.
Right.
Plain and simple.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing is Meta provides really, really good competitive data too, right? And I mean that the data set coming out of it really helps inform these brands what they're doing. If you look at Kayak, and yes, they've been growing their traffic, right? I'm looking at SimilarWeb since October. They're up actually month over month, up like 17%. Now some of that may be seasonal.
Yeah, there's got to be seasonality in there.
February to March. That's a 3-day difference. Okay, so everybody needs to look at things like that.
Right.
But when you start looking at 7% of their traffic is from referrals, right? Their referral traffic is coming from cheapflights.com. It's coming from booking.com. Media Alpha, who's basically a marketing group, sending business to them. And that's about it. Where's it going? Priceline, Cheapo Air, Expedia, American Airlines, which is interesting, but that's down. They're justfly.com, which is is Just Fly the Travel Zoo one? I can't remember who Just Fly is. I think so. But that's where all the stuff's, where the stuff's going. Not in huge things going out to these individual hotels and individual, hotel companies in a big way, right? So,
right. But I mean, Lauren, think about it this way, right? If Booking.com really thought Kayak was, the end all be all, why wouldn't they simply put those features within the regular Booking.com interface?
I was surprised by the uptick, not the downtick. Let's put it that way.
Right. But the other thing I would push back, Robert, on your numbers a second ago. The other thing I would push back on your numbers a second ago, Robert. You're saying 17% month over month. You're right about the 3 days. The other thing I'd look at is year on year. What's its growth, and what's the growth in Google search volume? What's the growth in overall use? What's the growth in mobile? Right?
It's not going anywhere. And Steve Hafner, their CEO, is now also CEO of OpenTable. Right. So he's now splitting his time. That's kind of an indicator of
And I don't want to, I realize I'm sitting here like beating up on Meta. It's fine. I would never tell anybody ignore, 2% of your business entirely. Right. Yeah. Fine. Great. But let's be real. It's 2% of your business. If you're lucky. Give it 2% of your time.
It's massively U.S. focused. Right?
For sure.
Internationally, Skyscanner is killing them. So Skyscanner has.
But again, Skyscanner's the same reality, right? It's small.
Oh no, exactly. Okay. Oh no, it is. It is. In the pure meta space.
I'm taking what you're saying, Tim, and I'm open-minded to the idea of it. I'm not disagreeing with it per se. But my hesitancy process is that I see it as a badly tuned engine. It's getting you somewhere, but it sure could do a lot better job. I think with because I see it as a very sharp scalpel on some things. When I say Google Hotel Finder and so forth, okay, the ability to incorporate that into your ad.
By the way, when I talk, remember, I'm not talking about Google when I'm talking about Meta.
I understand, but the methodology, the tool functionality of it exists as here you are with variations. Let's just, in some clarity of it, that here are all the places that are offering this opportunity in selectivities. Okay. And Google, there could be a scalpel value to it.
But are we talking Google or are we talking Meta?
I'm going to talk Google specifically first as a inference to what I'm talking about, Google, what I'm referring to Meta.
Okay, in the same slides that I just posted a link to, I have a whole section specifically about Google because Google's a different reality altogether. Google is anywhere between 40% and 80% of your traffic, no matter how you split it up, right? Meta, hotel price ads, paid search, organic search, etc. Right? It is your most important distribution channel.
I understand.
For sure.
I'm referring to the methodology of the use of the HPA, of how it is interpreted and used within the Google ecosystem as indicative of the potentiality of meta search's usability.
And that's the part where I disagree. And the reason I disagree,
go ahead.
The reason I push back on this is Google and meta search Google has added meta search to its search results as a feature because that's what meta search is, right? Mm-hmm. It's enhancing its search results with better features to make the search results more relevant, more useful, more appropriate to the needs of the traveler based on what their intent was when they conducted a search.
And this
Hear me out.
Okay.
Right? Okay. All right. Now we're saying, okay, so Google's giving you a really good answer, and they're giving you all the different places you can book these properties or this property you're looking at, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let me go look at 3 other things that give me a worse search result that do exactly the same thing as Google, but not as well and aren't as integrated. That's the part where I think Meta is always going to be a niche product.
And here's where
what happens in the Google search results, I always think is going to be really important.
See, to me, Google HPA is a counter-antithesis of what Google eventually wants to be, which is single answer. They don't want multiplicities of results.
That's not true. That's not true. That's the flaw in your thinking.
No.
No. That's
Google
seriously.
wants multiple things. The user wants an answer.
That's not true either.
Well, it depends on the user.
I want to hear how you're going to defend Google's mission statement right now as being wrong.
No. Google wants to answer the question that the customer asked. And sometimes, and we know this is true, we see this every day. Sometimes the customer asks for, best hotel near Penn Station. And then Google, hold on. Mm-hmm. Hear me out. Because the point, it doesn't matter whether it's HPA or not. The point is, if somebody asks for, hotel near Penn Station, New York, right? Mm-hmm. Best hotel near Penn Station. Google wants to give the one and only one answer that is the best answer for that guest, for that query, which would be a single hotel, however they choose to sell it to you, however they choose to present the sale of it to you, right? If somebody searches
and they may present it first with a list of other options too, right? Which is
fine. But to that point, Lauren, that's exactly where you're correct, where Google wants to give one answer to the question. Right? They want to give, here is the answer, here is the hotel, here is the link to it, or here is the way you can book it. We'll be more than happy to take a cut of that. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. Right? But the point being, yes, they want to give you just one answer and they want to monetize that answer. Right? Mm-hmm. At the same time, think about the intent of the customer. If I'm searching for, hotels where I can go skiing, right? Which is a bad query, but I haven't decided where I'm going to travel yet, right? Right. But no, what Google wants to give you is choice, because the difference in the query, the difference in your intent as a user is, one, you don't want choice. You want the one true answer, which is not a choice. It is, what's the answer that's best for me? The second one, the minute I say hotels, plural, what the guest is saying is, I'm open to choice. I'm looking for options. And Google doesn't want to give you one answer. They want to give you choice.
I'm not disagreeing.
The choice could be meta search. The choice could be...
Actually, I think Google still wants to be able to know you so well they can still give you one answer, but that's a whole different discussion. What I'm going to
but they want the answer to be choice.
Right. No. I think even they want to know you well enough to know how to answer that question for you, even if it's arbitrary as that.
But I agree with that. I agree with that. But we're actually not disagreeing on that point.
What is the core element of an HPA? What is the core element of the HPA when it shows your hotel? Price.
The price.
Right.
Yeah.
So if in your collaboration with Google, if Google knows you well enough and knows the price sensitivity or price requirements or price thresholds or price anything, they don't want to give you the variations on price. They don't want to say, this hotel is great off the top. Oh, but then this one's over here if you want that. Or it's the same hotel, but here's some choices on prices. It doesn't want to get you there. It wants to give you.
I agree with that.
So it ultimately wants to do that. But that's not what I'm trying to make out of this point. It's getting diluted to what I want to point out.
Yeah.
It's the idea that I'm not trying to say Google's ecosystem and how HPA affects that is a modicum of how all the meta doesn't work for it. I'm saying the methodology of how HPA works in the sense of rate availability and in your exposure to it is a little bit like, why do you put brochures at a gas station when you're selling a hotel? I'm going to go old school on this. Okay. You're driving down the road, you pull in a gas station, there's brochures about hotels on the road ahead of you. Wow, you're getting gas. Okay. Why is a hotel brochure? Is because you want to be where everyone is that might be interested in knowing what you have. So Meta in its concept, the value proposition it says is it represents inventory on all platforms that represent inventory to allow you the opportunity to be exposed to them. To me, the core of that is that.
I agree.
So to that end,
but that's Booking.com too.
Is that
right? But that's Booking.com too.
Right. No, but hold on. But Booking.com is translating it to what they have as availability of your inventory, not all aspects of availability. So that's one of the reasons why Booking.com will not put Meta on Booking.com, because they don't want the diversity of clicking on your website and going to somebody else's website just because you're able to negotiate.
That's not. I disagree with that statement. I disagree with that statement, and I disagree with that statement because if Booking.com was losing serious amounts of traffic to Kayak, they would understand that's what our customers want, and we will figure out a way to monetize it once we give them that answer.
And
here.
Priceline,
only if they put that exposure to it. But
Priceline.
But they're not giving you exposure to it because they're not. Go ahead, Robert. Go ahead.
The DNA of Priceline since day one was, and they hate when I say this, the used car dealer mentality. Shop around, go look at everything, and then come back to me and I'll give you the best price, right? That was the fundamental, the fundamental sort of thing. The way Booking has manifested that is, going back to the very beginning, you can cancel these things. It's easy. You can book something here with very, very low risk, and basically they're betting on, once you do that, you probably won't shop around and change. You'll stick with us. Or if you do start shopping around and changing, you're going to do it in our ecosystem, right? Because it'll be easier, right? Because you saw it there, and I don't have to go over there. Oh, is it not going to be available? I can go book this and cancel it, and I can see the sort of thing, right? So yeah, that's what they're doing. But I don't think the customer sees any. I don't think they could care less if it's Expedia versus Google Hotel Finder, really doing google.com/travel/hotels, right? Which is now the search URL for it. That versus Booking, it doesn't matter. They're looking for a hotel that's going to meet their needs. Now, maybe they're going to go to Marriott.com or Hilton.com because they're playing that game, sort of thing. Maybe, but they just want the answer. And you're right. It depends on the persona of that traveler going, what am I looking for at this particular time?
Right.
So I'm busy. I don't care about it.
Right.
Give me the best one. And it's the Hampton Inn next to the place you're having the meeting. You're in and out for one night. Who cares? If Google knows that, that's fantastic. And it's a great price. And all the different factors you would take into consideration, we understand, and our AI is smarter than your brain. So we'll go give you this, right? We can go find this stuff faster, right? You don't have to search. That's great. I think when you're looking at alternatives, though, they're going to work very hard to try to get, this is the Expedia model, right? How do you get the best alternative to the top of that sort order, right?
Well, but also,
and then here are the alternatives
model best often is which one do they make the most money on?
Oh no, absolutely. And they have, and again, originally at the beginning, Rich and Eric were completely about nobody buys, they are not selling slotting, right? Well, that changed eventually. Right. Because they could make so much money on it.
I want to make 2 quick points because I think we're losing the thread here a little bit. I want to make 2 very quick points. Point A, my point about Meta is that people talk about Meta like it's going to be the savior of the industry.
And I disagree. I agree with you. That's wrong.
And that is the core point that I make when I make my comments about discounting Meta. It's going to be maybe 2% of your business. Treat it like it's 2% of your business, not like somehow that's going to save your business from all the business you're giving away to the OTAs. It's a piece of a piece. It is not the whole. That's point A.
Okay.
Point 1. Okay.
Well,
I mean, seriously, people should focus on it for what it is. And Lauren, I agree with you completely that you should maximize it. You should optimize for it. You should do all those things. But if you're spending more than 2% of your time on it, had 2 points I desperately wanted to make so we don't lose the thread. So point A is don't spend more time on Meta, not counting Google, than it's actually worth, right? Spend the amount of time on Meta that it's actually worth. If it's 2% of your business, spend 2% of your time. Life is too short to spend more than that on it, right? The second piece, the thing that I also think is really important, is there's a fundamental difference in the way Google works versus the way Expedia works or the way Booking works, right? Google needs to be the correct answer. Google wants to be the place you go and ask every question. And if you look at what Google's done over the years, you're all familiar with the concept of universal search. And when you go to Google today, you ask certain questions, what shows up in the search engine results page varies widely, right? Nobody gets 10 blue links any longer. Sometimes you get images. Sometimes you get YouTube videos. Sometimes you get knowledge boxes. Sometimes you get featured snippets. Sometimes you get shopping results. Sometimes you get hotel price ads, right? Right on the core Google search result, right? Sometimes you get maps, right? Now, there are links to all of those in Google search result, right? But they actually brought those results into the main search result because they know people don't click on those links. Google's saying, what's the question you're asking and what's the search engine results page that is the best answer for the question that you asked? And sometimes that's going to be a hotel price ad, right? Yeah. So hotel price ads should absolutely be part of your overarching search strategy, part of your overall marketing strategy, or search should be part of your distribution strategy, however you want to think about it, right? But search and search marketing and distribution and hotel price ads are all the same thing. They're all coming from the same place, and it's driven by what is the question that the guest has, what is the right answer, what is Google displaying to them to answer that question most effectively, and how do we make sure we appear for those different types of queries in the way that is most beneficial to us from a revenue and from a profitability perspective, right? So that's why I break out Google separately, because you shouldn't think of hotel price ads as separate from your search. You shouldn't think of your search marketing as separate from your distribution. You shouldn't think about your SEO as separate from your distribution. You should be thinking of all of this to say, literally, if you look at most hotel websites, what share of traffic comes from Google, period, Google, right? 40%, 50%, 60%, right? Yep. I mean, those aren't uncommon numbers, right?
No.
So where should you be spending 40, 50, 60% of your time?
Right. Yeah.
Right. And hotel price ads are part of that. And the biggest problem I run into when I talk to folks about this is, hotel price ads is run by one part of the organization.
Yeah.
SEO is run by a different part of the organization. Paid search is run by a different part of the organization. Or some of them aren't run by anybody, right? We let the agency handle it and we don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And that's the mistake that I think people make far too often.
Yeah.
But Google is your most important distribution channel, and hotel price ads are one of the things that they do there. But they're always having to say, when somebody's asking a question, what is the best answer? Because here's one last point about this. Sorry, I realize I'm ranting on this a lot, but here's one last point about this. You own a computer, obviously, right? I don't know this, Lauren. I don't know the answer to this. Are you a Mac guy or are you a PC guy?
I'm a Mac guy.
You're a Mac guy. Okay. If you wanted to switch to PCs, right? If you decided I want to get a Dell tomorrow, what would it cost you to switch to Dell?
It'd be painful.
It'd be painful, right? You got to get a new laptop. You got to get new software. You got to get new accessories, right?
No, okay. Albeit it's granted, it's a little less painful nowadays because most things are cloud-based.
Emotionally painful.
But you'd have to. But there'd be a learning curve to some degree, right? Because it doesn't work the same, right? So there's
every time I get on my wife's laptop, I got to go back to. Oh, wait a minute, it's on the left. It's control panel.
Right. Yeah. But there's a cost there, right? Okay. If you wanted to switch from an iPhone to an Android,
same thing. Painful.
Okay. All
probably
right.
actually more painful. Probably more painful.
If you wanted to stop using, and I want to be very careful here, this is a very precise question, right? Okay. If you wanted to switch from using Google for search to using Bing for search, how hard would it be for you to switch? What would it cost you to switch?
Oh gosh, none, and it'd be easier. I mean, out of comparison to the other two, by far easiest.
by far the easiest, right?
By far the easiest.
And that's why Google always has to be the right answer.
Sure.
Because
Absolutely.
There's never been a company in the history of companies that I know of where the switching cost for a company this big was ever this low.
Oh, right? Yep, I agree with you. And totally out of context of this, I got to give you a compliment.
Me?
Yes, you. Because
now I feel bad about this. Now I feel bad about this.
This is something you do. This is something you do. This is something of your personality that I deeply respect, because I've seen you do it in person. I've seen you do it on stage. When somebody's disagreed with it, I've seen you do it on the show. One of the key things you do in your engagement with people is that when you see dissension or you see a polarity of events and so forth, you will make it a point to draw back to a conclusion that a person has to affirmatively answer a question, because it realigns the fact that people's willingness to listen to what you next say. You do this exceptionally well. You do this.
I didn't realize I did that.
You do this, and this is a part of your personality behavior. Whenever you start getting into discussions and there's opinions and it begins to create polarities, or if there's, and I've seen you do it with people in person when you're talking to people and they begin to have variances and so forth, you at least create a common ground conversation that they have to affirmatively acknowledge, which brings them back to a point of open-mindedly listening to what else gets said afterwards, or at least a neutral relationship afterwards. You do it better than anybody I know.
Except Ed, who just tells you you're wrong. Listen.
I did try for years. I will be fair. I did try for years. You're dumb and you're wrong, but I found that didn't go very well.
It didn't go well. but no, you do this in person. This is not just because of the show. This is not because of this moment. You are great about the fact that you are in tune with the progress of the dialogue. You have this overview of the progress of the dialogue, and you bring it back to commonalities, or at least affirmational, so the person opens their mind again to continue the conversation, because you know that you get to a point where you just start saying no to everything that somebody is saying because you've yet to find any reason to say yes. You create a reason to say yes, so people open their mind to possibly continue that thought. You do a great job.
And that's very nice of you to say. I appreciate that. I will be fair. I mean, if we legitimately get to that place and somebody says, "Look, I just don't agree," I'm okay with that too.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You know.
But at least, but with you like I said, when in your dialogue of things, you keep the continuity of the conversation. So at least that you keep the person accepting the idea that there's open-minded things. If they can say yes to one question, is it sunny today? Yes, great. Then you're not just saying no to everything. You go from there. You know what I mean? You do an excellent job of that. It's a talent that not many people have.
Well, I think at the end of the day, where I think one of the reasons that this show is great, and I'm dead serious. The reason I love coming on this show is there are a lot of smart people on this show with a lot of smart opinions, and I always walk away smarter than I walked in. Always, every time.
I always thought it was what you were getting paid.
Well, I was going to say I'd like to get my pay doubled.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Consider it done.
Lauren just quadrupled my pay. Yeah, I just got a quadruple.
Some quadruples.
Wait, I've got a question for you guys.
Well, okay, actually, I just want to finish my compliment
ahead.
real quick because I think it is a smart group of people, and I always walk away smarter than I walked in. And also, I think it's a damn nice group of people. And so, at the end of the day, even if we disagree, I want to make sure we're all still friends at the end of it, because and there's a second reason for that, and the second reason is because I could be wrong. Maybe I'm just not smart enough yet to figure out that I was wrong on this one. I don't think I am in this specific case. Oh, I'm wrong on this show lots of times. I
enjoy being, because I walk. I mean, to me, and I actually equate to this. I told Ed this directly because I've been talking to his wife about other stuff about personas and so forth for her business, and I said I'm very much like Ed. I walk in thinking I'm right, but I'll be the first to admit when I'm wrong. I'm that person.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't walk in thinking I'm wrong and see if I can sell it. I walk in thinking I'm right, and if I'm proven wrong, I'll be the first. You know what? You're right. I'm wrong. That's great.
Right.
There's been plenty of times I've walked in with preconceived notions, and through great dialogue, realized, but the idea of it is I also respect the people we're talking to be open to that conversation. Right. And it's so hard to listen to somebody that isn't knowledgeable, that just knows words. And they think they understand interpretation, because then you're just being polite because you're just waiting for them to stop talking because they don't know what they're talking about. This is not that dialogue. This dialogue is I walk in, it's like, these people are smarter than me already, and I think I have an opinion. Let's see if I can shoot it, throw it up and hold water. If it doesn't, it wasn't a good idea.
Well,
So,
and if you can agree on how you're going to measure and figure out what's right or wrong. Okay, what are we looking as a baseline, as a benchmark? And then where are we trying to go? And let's measure the results. And maybe you can start doing some things to figure that out, or at least get an opportunity to go, well, what's the goal? What do we need to do? And it's like, yeah, let's try this, have it work. Let's try that. Maybe do an A/B test if you can, depending on what they're wanting to do.
I got a great lesson in that from a former boss of mine once, where she used to bet people. We used to A/B test things and the like, and she used to bet people that her ideas were better than theirs, right? Mm-hmm. And the deal was, if she thought her idea was equally as good as yours, it'd be a 1-to-1 bet, $1 for $1. It was always $1. You put in $1 if it was your idea. If she thought her idea was up to 5 times better, she'd put up to $5 in, right?
Wow.
If you were right, you kept the money.
Yeah.
And if you were wrong, the money went into a kitty, and at the end of the month, there was a pizza party or, Thai food or whatever, right, for the team, right?
Yeah.
And I was talking to her one time about it, and I said, I'm always amazed about the fact you do this. This is incredible, yada, yada, yada. I think it's interesting because it gets people to come up with all kinds of ideas about how can we come up with a better idea than so-and-so, yada, 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 and all these other kinds of things. And I said, doesn't it ever bug you when you're wrong? And she said, absolutely not. And I said,
it's a better idea.
Well, no. I said, she was on a losing streak, right? She was on a losing streak, and I was like, you're getting your ass kicked lately. Doesn't it ever bug you when you're wrong about this? And she said, no. And I said, yeah, why is that? And she said, I'm on a 45% bonus plan. Every time I lose, I win.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
By the way, I was talking before we started the show, and I had a bit of a weird moment early before the show today that I've never experienced before. You have our mentors in life, and you're talking about one of them and so forth. And I hope he's not listening to the show because it's going to be revealing. But I came across him. We've been dialoguing over the years. He was a person that brought me into this industry, into hotels, not in hospitality, but into hotels. And we connected, and he started his own business. He's doing his own things, and I offered to help him with stuff. I made his website, got his domain going, and so forth. Things that he wasn't, comfortable with, and that was fine. But then he asked me to kind of help him put together a presentation.
It's Jesus. Tim.
Anyways, the weird feeling I got was you always think your mentors are ahead of you, that they're always going to be ahead of you, that they're always going to be better than you.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's times where you realize you've taken a different path and you've actually accelerated in a different way than them.
Right.
And that, because I'm working, it's like, I wouldn't do what you're asking me to do. That isn't what, if that's why you do your presentation, I come in behind people like you and take the, it's just weird things where it's like, all of a sudden it's like the person that you kept as being always better than you in all classifications of how you saw them, they're still great at everything.
Sure.
You see other things, you're like, it was just a weird feeling like, I'm actually good at this compared to who I always thought was better than me.
The student becomes the master.
Oh, I've taken the pebble.
Yeah, but the flip side of that, and this is advice I give people all the time because it was advice I got when I was young from a mentor of mine, just about the fact that you can learn anything from anyone, even people who are, more junior in their careers, even people who, don't know anything. I mean, how many times have you had a conversation with somebody who it's the old story. I'll tell the joke version, not the joke version of it, but the story version of it that you all have heard about. The truck gets stuck under a bridge and they're trying to figure out ways to get the truck unstuck. And a little kid comes along and goes, why don't you just let the air out of the tires? Right.
Yeah.
Like sometimes people just see things in a different way because they don't come in with any baggage. So always be learning from everybody, even the people who don't know anything.
Right. That lesson is why I always used to hire people that didn't work in hotels for hotels, because they saw it the way the customers saw it. longer than us that got tainted. And the other was whenever I hired people new when I did for my brief stint of doing an agency work was when I hired new people in, they would say, well, what's our process for that? I would first ask them, what do you think we should do with it? How do you think we should handle it? Because if you can't innovate, if you're the one that pointed this out. Einstein said, or you can't solve the problems you created the same thought process.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Oh, you're using the same thought process?
Yeah. And to us, it's like, here we have our processes because we think it's the best way. Well, it also creates the problem. Like you said, shipwreck, build the ship, have the shipwreck. Our processes create problems. So the only way to solve the outside of this is to think differently than what you did to create the problem to begin with. So I would always ask new people, what process would you think this would be better suited as? And it may not always be right, but at least it was a perception to be considered. So yes, to that end.
Absolutely. Well, and that gives you an opportunity to explain to them, hey, you know what? That's a really interesting idea. We do it this way because of that. If you do it that, whatever, it's violating somebody's personal privacy, or it's a security or whatever. Maybe it's a big thing that they don't realize, which they really need to know coming in the industry.
Well, it's like when I pointed out earlier that they do the operant conditioning that, replaces people that they all stand up when the bell rings. Why are we doing it? I don't know. If you don't ask why, you don't have a reason. I always go with the adage of the Men in Black that when they're all trying to fill out the form, I'm the guy that drags the table across the table. It's like, I need the table, so I'm going to drag the damn thing across the room,
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly right. Well, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt that they're doing it for a reason, but also, you probably have a good reason for that. Could you help me understand what that reason is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which, again, that's much better than what the F are you talking? Are you a moron? Yeah, no, that doesn't work well to really get to the answer.
But, first of all, let's be fair. I'm a consultant for a living, right? I spend my day going, as are you guys. We spend our days going into people's businesses. And, most people are smart, right? The business is usually doing okay-ish. In some cases, it's doing better than okay, right?
And trying to make the right decision. They aren't sitting there trying to kill themselves. Yeah,
correct. Exactly. Right. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that the decisions they made to this point made sense at the time they made them.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Now, do they still make sense? Okay, well, let's figure that out. Often the answer is yes, and occasionally when you find the answer is no, that's the stuff you fix. Right.
It also creates trust, because trust is always having to be verifiable in business. And if you go in, as most agencies unfortunately do, to find why you're better than the agency that is there.
Yeah.
You're creating a biasness to it. Oftentimes I tell people, it's like, well, we're considering you to take over. It's like, please don't. You asked me to come in and evaluate what you're doing. Let me do that unbiasedly. If afterwards you want to have another discussion, that's great. But don't have me add into this contract, this consideration will be made after this. It's like, no. You can't ask me to come in and evaluate what's going on. That's the project. Once it's done, if you have another conversation, it's fine. That way what I'm telling you is because it's the truth. I might be telling you to do a great job. Then what are you going to do? You know?
So Lauren, your consulting practice isn't the integrated home inspector contractor, huh? Okay, that's good.
Actually, it's one of the reasons we don't execute. Right. We don't have an execution arm, because I'm often asked to evaluate agencies, and I don't want to be selling against the people I'm evaluating. Right.
And that's, Robert and I did the same decision early on. We don't take affiliate monies. It's like when I take your recommendations.
Correct.
We are freaking morons. The three of us are morons. we could have cigarette boats. We could have houses.
Right. Yeah.
But and in my career, in all seriousness, I think, and it's funny, you were telling the story about the Marriott on Hollywood a little while ago. In my career, I think I've fired just a couple of agencies from clients of mine. And one of them was because we went in, and it's very much your Marriott on Hollywood story of things directing to the homepage, right? Marriott on Hollywood, take them to the homepage for Marriott, right?
Right.
This still pisses me off to this day. A hotel that I worked with, a hotel company that I worked with, had an agency. They were very new to this. They didn't know much about it, et cetera. And actually, that's one of the reasons they brought me in, because they didn't think they were getting good value out of the agency, but they didn't know the questions to ask, right? They had no familiarity with digital marketing, but very little. And we looked and discovered that on average, now keep this in mind, this was the average bounce rate of their paid campaigns was 90%.
Oh, good God.
Ow. Yeah.
90.
Wow.
I've got this general idea. I go, okay, this is going to be easy. It's
Accenture in the article basically said, basically
largely because their technical group, and again,
Yeah. And Mr. Robert, if they want to know